Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Cynthia Interviews and this is the Business Beyond Borders podcast. I created the show to inspire and motivate entrepreneurs and business owners who want to expand their company internationally and make a bigger impact in the world. And I chat to people who have already walked that path about how they did it. Today I'm talking to Angus Raine, a leading real estate commentator and the executive chairman of Raine Horne Group here in Australia. Now, what's a bit different about Angus is that he's a fourth generation member of the family that created the Raine Horne brand. He didn't start the company, but he has been instrumental in taking it overseas. At 135 years old, Raine Horne is one of the oldest privately held companies in Australia and the Southern Hemisphere. And it's a real estate franchising model with commercial, rural and mortgage broking arms. Raine Horne currently has offices in Malaysia, the UAE, India, Fiji and Vietnam, as well as across Australia. Angus, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Cynthia.
I wanted to start out by kind of talking about where you've come from. So I'm curious to know, have you always been an entrepreneur? What were you like as a kid?
Well, as a kid, I think the word entrepreneur, being an older person, had a dirty connotation in the 80s.
Is that right?
So I think I'm very much so. I think more as a business builder, which is really what the definition of an entrepreneur is.
Yes.
To answer your question, when I was the fellow in the neighbourhood that did the car washing. I had a car washing run. I did a paper run, and I did a milk run.
Yes.
So I think that maybe answers your question.
So that was kind of in your blood from an early age.
Yes, I even had sort of like a frequent customer flyer point system. So I grew up in a very affluent suburb. So back in the 70s, everyone knew each other.
Yeah.
So I had a great network. Everyone knew me and my parents. So I'd say, well, you refer me three clients, you'll get a free car wash. So I pioneered a loyalty program.
You may have been one of the first, because I'm not sure there were many of those around in the 70s, were there?
Exactly. It was all cash money too.
Now, for people listening in Australia, they'll already know about Raine Horne because it's a really famous business and a really famous brand in Australia. But for people who are listening to this show outside Australia, can you just tell us a little bit about the Raine Horne story? Because essentially you are from a real estate family. So you have come into the real estate business, but Raine Horne as a concept and as a business already existed before you became involved in it. Can you just paint us a little picture of how long the company's been around for and what it does for people who are offshore and don't know about it?
Sure. So we're 135 years old this year. In Australian terms, that is one of the oldest privately held family businesses in Australia and also the Southern Hemisphere. So we're a purist real estate franchising model. Having said that, we also have a commercial brand, a rural brand and a mortgage broking brand. The last 3 years, we've been the fastest growing network in Australia. And that's probably lent us to look overseas, refocusing on our overseas expansion, which we've been doing the last probably 2 years, to be fair.
Mm. And so who actually started the company? Because it was a great-grandfather of yours?
Yes, so I'm the fourth generation, so my great-grandfather, and it's probably important for me to mention that resonates really well when you go overseas, particularly in Asia and the Middle East.
Yes.
They love that family heritage. In Australia, we're all pretty complacent about things. We don't sort of celebrate. We're not very good at celebrating our achievements. That's not just Raine Horne. I'm talking about Australians in general.
Yeah.
We tend to hide things a little bit. So when you go overseas, you realise that it's really, really worth a hell of a lot, that sort of that family lineage that we enjoy.
Yeah. And when you were younger, did you plan to go into the family business? Because I know you actually started your real estate career outside the family business. Was that intentional, and did you start doing real estate and then come into the company, or did you always plan to do some time outside and then come into the family company? Where did you start, and then how did you transition into the Raine Horne business?
So well, I did all my studies. I'm a property valuer, and from there, I don't think nepotism is a word that doesn't sit very well with me, and again doesn't sit very well with Australians. And if you're going to eventually run a sales-oriented company like I do now, you have to have done it. Look, I know there is a trend in big corporate Australia to have people that have never actually been in their actual business, but in real estate, you really have to have done it. So I had 15 years working for 3 or 4 multinational commercial brands, principally in Australia, but it involved a lot of Asia travel too.
Okay, so you really had that international thing going on from pretty shortly after you finished studying.
Yeah, very much so. So I sort of built my own brand myself, and most people didn't associate me with Raine Horne, which was great. And they were quite stunned after I've done a large commercial transaction. They're pretty stunned when I told them my connection with Raine Horne. So I built my own brand outside of the business, which kind of enabled me to come in at a higher level at the board level when I was mid-30s with my father and joining Raine Horne.
All right. Okay. And so how soon after that did the business become an international one? And talk me through what was that catalyst for taking the company international, and when did you start working on that?
Well, we've had offices. We've got 12 offices in Malaysia. They've been with us nearly 30 years. Yes. 30 years next year. So we've had a toe in the water internationally. The Asia crisis sort of sorted out a few of our offices, but that was a great learning curve for us.
Yes.
So it's probably in the last 3 years that we've really focused on building our international brand. So now we have offices in the middle of Dubai. We're looking at Kuwait. We've just opened 4 offices in India. So we have a corporate office that we fund in Bangalore in India. So we've opened 4 only this year. There's another 4 that will open before Christmas. We've got 3 offices in Fiji, and we've just signed a heads of agreement in Vietnam. So by Christmas, we'll have 1, if not 2 offices in Vietnam. So it's all very exciting.
And that's really interesting because I didn't realize that you had offices in Malaysia for such a long time. Thinking back on, the fact that you had an international presence for this extended period, but then in the last 3 to 4 years, the sort of global play has mushroomed. What is that about? I mean, can you talk us through why that's happened? Have you seen a particular opportunity or?
Well, my father is a real Asiaphile like me. Mm-hmm. Back in the 70s when everyone was going on holidays to, probably America or Europe, we all went to Asia. And that was before Asia was even considered a tourist destination, let alone a commercial opportunity destination. So I love travelling in that region. So that's where it started. But you can have the best strategy and the best plans, but if you don't have the right people, it will never, ever be executed.
Yeah.
So I've got a general manager of international because we're a long way away from everywhere.
Yes.
So you've got to have people you've got to have people that are prepared to travel and be away from home for periods or extended periods of time. So you can't, as I'm executive chairman, I don't have the time to do all the travel.
Yeah.
Having said that, I do go and see these offices, but not nearly as much as the general manager, and he's got extensive international experience.
So as a firm, when you're thinking about a new international market, how do you go about choosing where you'll expand to? What drives that decision for you as a company?
So we tend not to overanalyze things too much, but having said that, we're blessed in Australia. We've got the most mature and sophisticated real estate agency practice in the world, and we've probably got the most sophisticated consumer in the world. And then that also couples with our financial institution, mortgage broking industries. So we do lead the world. So that's people when they join us, they want our IP, they want our our know-how. So we look at things like population. How mature is the market? how big the middle class is? Because property is an aspirational play. So how big the middle class is, particularly pertinent to India.
Yes.
And also, of course, how we like a very good legal system, obviously, and property title. That's absolutely fundamental system. And if they have any franchising law.
Yes. And do you think...
And also, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Cynthia. We're quite lucky in Australia. It's an important point with our sort of diaspora.
Yes.
So our Dubai office is an Australian. One of the partners in Fiji, 3 partners in Fiji. We've got 40 staff there, 3 offices I've mentioned. He's an Aussie. Malaysia. A lot of because they've been with us so long, a lot of their children have studied here. So I know I know all the kids, and also India. They've got strong links to Australia, and the Vietnamese office. They also have strong links through the diaspora in Australia. So we're blessed, so we can really leverage off our multiculturalism.
And have you found that the Raine Horne model's translated pretty well into the markets that you've gone to? Has it been an easy thing to pick up the model that you've used here in Australia and to transplant it somewhere else?
Look, very, very much so. I mean, using the Indian example, we might have an office. I mean, in Australia, we might have one office per probably 15 to 20,000 dwellings. In India, we'd probably have one office for every 1 million people. So there's just more zeros when you go to a place like India, or if you go to a place like China. There's just more zeros. So we tend not to get lost in the zeros too much.
Yes.
But the model's very, very, very similar.
Okay. And just thinking of, because it's great to hear about how well it has gone and how seamless it's been. But when you do international business, it's never, ever 100%, flawless and without challenges. So if you had to kind of pick a challenge and say what you thought had been the most difficult aspect of this globalization process so far, what would that be? What do you think has been the most challenging thing, and how has the company managed it?
So I've mentioned the tyranny of distance. Australia's a long way away. So in the future, I think we'll probably have an international office in Singapore.
Yes.
So then you can jump around to these markets easier, but that's probably 3 to 5 years away.
Yes.
I think the major challenge is, do they fit our culture? We're very strong on culture. I know it's a much used term in the commercial world now. So for example, I flew up with our general manager to interview people in Thailand. They were expats, and I just said to our GM, these guys just don't fit us. I get a very bad feeling how they treated other people.
Yes.
Just their general demeanour. I said, no, we can't do this. So we flew back home.
Yeah.
Don't rush into things. So we just said, no. One of the things about having my title, I can make very quick decisions, and if they're not right, I can unmake them. But that was the correct decision. It's not about numbers of offices overseas. It's about how connected they are with you.
I think that's really interesting. And look, that is a great segue to what I wanted to ask you about next, which is about Raine Horne's company culture. So we've just talked about, mismatch of values. Tell me what the Raine Horne values are.
Well, it may sound a bit twee, but it is very a family-based culture. So I know all our principals. We have about 3,500 staff in Australia. Yeah. So I sort of pride myself on knowing their partners and a lot of the time what their children are doing, because that's all very important. They're all they're basically aligned with my culture and the company's. We also have internal incentive campaigns, because it's very easy in this day and age to Skype people or have teleconferences. Real estate's still a physical contact sport. It's still belly to belly.
Yes.
So that means that I get out and about. So our internal incentive promotion that actually ends in December this year, and I'll go to probably about 20 functions around Australia. We all get together and we have auctions. They all have pretend money, and they can bid for items at an auction, for example, and mix and mingle and have a bit of fun. Because again, I think a lot of companies have forgotten to have a bit of fun. It's hard working, and I think a lot of people, we like to bring the smile back into things and not be so serious all the time.
Yeah. And how do you translate that to, an office that's a continent away or the other side of the world away? How do you actually make sure that you can build that culture in a new place and really keep that esprit de corps that you've got here in Australia alive in, for example, Dubai or in India or in any of the other offices that you've set up?
Well, we had our international conference on the Gold Coast only last month in July, and most of our international officers, 2 partners from Fiji came, 3 partners from Malaysia and their kids came. So that's a start. So they get a great feel. It's probably 300 to 400 people attend. They get a great feel in that 3 or 4 days about what Raine Horne's all about.
Fantastic. So Angus, I wanted to ask you now a couple of questions about you. And it's a pretty big job that you have on your hands running this Australian company, which is now a global company. How do you stay motivated? What is it that gets you out of bed every day to face up to being the owner of this company?
Tongue in cheek, you've got 5 children, 3 of them in very good schools, and I've got my 2 oldest are at college at Sydney Uni. So there's a financial. This is all out of you, Cynthia. There's a financial incentive to jump out of bed. But look, I'm blessed with. It's a perfect fit for me for what I do, for getting my surname.
Yes.
I'm blessed. I don't really need a push out of bed every morning. I love travelling, and I love growing the network, and I love seeing our people within the network grow.
Yes. And how do you describe your leadership style?
That's funny. Funny you asked that. I was thinking probably I'm quite informal, but also I just look at, because salesmen tend to get involved in the emotional side of things. I just look at if they didn't do X, Y, Z, why haven't you done X, Y, Z, and how can we help you, or how can I help you achieve what we've asked you to do as a company?
Yes.
It's all very well and good to, you can dance around a subject and a topic, but I just tend to look at the facts.
And get straight to the point.
Exactly. And also saves time. I often tell people I'm very frank. In this day and age, everyone's tiptoeing around at the HR.
Yes.
But I tend to be very frank because it saves time and just gets to the point.
Yeah. Now, I imagine that, sometimes on the business journey, even for you, there are days that are less good than the other days. So when you have a bad day, or if you find that you're sort of stuck on a tough business decision, what kind of strategies and tools have you come up with over time for managing, difficult decisions or situations that you're finding uncomfortable?
Well, I've got a very good management team with me. So I've got we run this firm. It's not a family picnic. We run it like a corporation. So we have non-executive directors. We have proper board meetings, strategies, which funnily enough, a lot of family businesses don't do, which I'm still amazed at. So my people under me, CEO, our GMs around Australia, our GM of international and commercial, I've mentioned, we've probably got 150 years of experience, not only in real estate, but also real estate franchising.
Yeah.
So we have a great brains trust. These guys are older than me. I know they won't mind me mentioning that, but they're a bit older than me, so they've probably seen 1 or 2 property cycles more than me.
Yes.
And that's a great sounding board. So it reminds me that when I did my Harvard business course, which was one of the executive MBAs, it was a month a year for 3 years. So the head professor just got up and she said, look, firstly, you should all be congratulated, all your business, because you can take a month off and come here to study, your businesses are already sound. Yeah. So that's a litmus test. That obviously you have a management team in place that you're comfortable enough, and these people are flying from 34 different countries around the world. Obviously your business is robust enough and your management team are good enough to be able to handle things when you're away. So I've actually never forgotten that. And there's a lot of people that say, oh, look, I couldn't possibly take time off to do a course. And I'm saying, well, that's exactly why you should take time off.
Yeah.
There's something fundamentally wrong with your business if you can't leave it.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting and a really, really sound point. I want to ask you also about inspiration. Are there people who've inspired you on the journey, or if not people, favourite books, and who are they, or what are they, and why?
Well, I'm one of these. If I don't know something about something, I've got a pretty good network because I'm sort of born in Sydney, always seem to have worked in the CBD. I've got a very wide network, so whatever it is, I'll know someone that's an expert in that field. That could be a personal level, or it can be a business. So that's really, really helped me. I'm also in a business forum group, and there's a group of 12 of us, all from family businesses of varying sizes. We've got a professional facilitator that's part of the Family Business Australia organisation. That's been just fantastic sounding board because everyone's gone through similar issues because family businesses have another level of complexity.
Yes.
Because, i.e. the family.
Yeah.
Family. So that's certainly been a great sounding board for me.
And what's next for you? I mean, do you see yourself at the head of Raine Horne forever, or is there some other thing that you have a burning desire to get out there and do at some point, some other passion project?
Well, I think I will be here for a long, long time anyway, a few decades. What's next for me? I'm sitting in my office surrounded by boxes.
Yes.
So we're moving offices. So we've purchased a floor in the city, and we're moving literally on Friday. So it is an absolute nightmare. If you've ever moved offices, something that you only want to do probably once a decade.
Okay.
So that is pressing on my mind.
Yes.
At the moment. But look, in future, the good thing about this business we do, we're certainly expanding our mortgage broking business. We might be looking at other ways of financing for our clients in the future. That's certainly very topical, be it an online play. We could look at having our own advertising company. That's certainly a passion of mine is marketing. That's probably my big passion is marketing. We could, open up our own sub-branded advertising agency that we could, have our clients being our offices or to also use. So that's something that we may look at before too long. So there's always opportunities out there.
If I had to ask you for a final thought that you could share with us, and I guess this would really be for other business owners who are wondering about this project of taking a company international, have you got any, advice or wisdom for owners of companies who are looking at the international space and thinking, that looks really interesting, I wonder if we should give that a shot?
So my answer to that, you must have a solid, profitable business in Australia before you look at expanding. Don't see the expansion as a lifeboat because that won't end well.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Angus, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been a pleasure to chat to you, and I wish you all the best with your move. If you've enjoyed today's episode, remember to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. And if you're aspiring to take on the world by storm with your business and you need a little bit of help, check out internationalbusinessaccelerator.com. You can find blogs, ebooks, this podcast, and information about the accelerator itself at that site. So the link again is internationalbusinessaccelerator.com.